You're hiring for comfort. You're hiring so you don't have to deal with the uncomfortable moments. A woman who has to pick up her kids, or you just want to deal with the same thing that you deal with. And then you have a team that looks like it looks. And you get less innovation, you get less productivity. You're all doing the same thing. You're all hanging out at the bar after work. You're all doing the same thing, which leads to the same results. I know why your profits are low. Let's talk about what your team makeup looks like.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Desiree Goldey.
And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself.
Please help me welcome Desiree with Unlocking Success Through Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging.
This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
Yeah, I am Desiree Goldey. Most my friends call me Des. I am the Director of Marketing and Culture for ZRG Partners, and most your listeners probably haven't heard of us. We're a global talent advisory firm.
Oh, okay.
Also the founder of Do Better Consulting, where we focus on executive coaching and inclusive coaching, and also help job seekers. So in this crazy market, I found that most people needed a little help. So I started doing a lot of that. I started my career in hospitality, in sales and marketing, led myself into talent after hospitality got old, and now live in the talent sphere and started in operations and recruiting, and now lead on the marketing side. So exciting time. I have a very non-linear path, but a lot of great experiences and challenges along the way.
Okay, that sounds good. So you said from hospitality to talent. So how did you get in talent?
So I was in college. I studied international marketing and international business marketing and Japanese when I was in college. My goal was to work for a large sports apparel brand. I wanted to work in Japan. I wanted to come over and take over the world. I had that experience and I hated it. I got in the job and I really did not like it. At the time, this was 1996. The corporate world was very different, and I didn't feel like it was my place at the time. So I left. It was the only job I've ever quit.
Wow.
Actually walked out on a job, and young mistakes, youth mistakes, and walked out and had nothing to do at that point, and had bills to pay. And so my friend who owned a bar at that time told me to come bartend for her. So I did. And it started a 20-year career in hospitality.
Wow.
And I found myself encouraged by customer service and dealing with people, and just the energy of hospitality fit my personality style, right? And it was so good. It was good for a good 20 years. And then as I got older, those late nights, I'd work myself into consumer foods, but there were still late nights and factories and crazy things going on. And I was, working 80 to 100 hours a week. It was insane. And I said, this is enough. It's time to do something else. And I had really worked with so many lovely people and mentored people and recruited people. Talent seemed like at the time the most natural step for me because it was just part of what I had been doing for so long.
Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity. I had to take a step back though, which is, interesting because I was at the top of my career in hospitalities. So I had to take a step back and went all the way back to the beginning and became a recruiter at an agency, worked my way up there very quickly and became a program manager, moved to Austin, Texas, where I got recruited out of that and work for the organization that I work for now, and have led in leadership roles today. So crazy.
Yeah, this is crazy, but it's pretty cool because I'm listening and I can definitely tell how you attach yourself to talent. And I want to kind of shift there because
Sure.
as individuals, let's say an individual leaving high school, and they're beginning the new journey. I don't know. Let me speak for myself. If someone else listening that can agree with this, but I had no clue. I had no clue what I wanted, what was my purpose, or what was there for me. Because the only thing, all my older brothers and sisters, my parents, they had an idea for my life, and it wasn't my idea. It's not what I wanted to be. So I want to kind of go to, individuals like someone right now that may say, Cedric, Desiree, I have no clue. I don't know what I want to do. I'm in college, but I don't know if this is what I want. What would you kind of help that individual on the very start of
Yeah.
beginning? What would you tell that individual?
Yeah, I think high school or college, this applies. And I was very much like you. My parents had a plan for me.
Right.
And the plan is not what it is today, but
Right.
they had a plan for me.
Yeah.
And it was important for me to keep that plan. It was the expectations. And I just want to say that live your life for you, not for other people. It's how we get a little sidetracked sometimes. But
Amen.
high school or college, I always encourage people to try different things when they don't know,
Mm.
right? Also, what do you enjoy doing that isn't work?
Yeah.
I enjoyed writing and I enjoyed parties and I enjoyed networking and I
Mm.
enjoyed events. And I should have known that should have been my first step in my career. I should
Yeah.
have gone that way because it was what I enjoy. But no one ever sat me down and said, "What do you enjoy?"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what are you passionate about?
Yeah.
I should have started kind of there, and I probably would have had a very different career path. But I think identifying you and what brings you fulfillment and happiness outside of work and in your work, right? In high school, what did you really love? Did you really love math in
Yeah.
high school? Did you really love science? If you hated both of those, I'm raising my hand right now. If you hated both of those, you know that probably isn't your career path,
Yeah.
right? If you were in high school and you loved English and history, and you should start figuring out what leans into those as a career.
Mm.
And then when you're in college, there's so much opportunity in college to take so many different courses and skills and all of these things that you can start to develop, whether that's a community college, a four-year college,
Yeah.
on and on and on.
Yeah.
You can take different things as electives, even if it's
Mhm.
not on your course path. That's what I did. When I was
Absolutely.
in college, I was very much on a very one track and started taking electives and other things to
Mm.
just try them out. And I think that's the way you finally get to what is actually your path.
Mm.
I never kind of solidified that even as I was leaving college,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And I don't think you have to have it all figured out. I also believe in nonlinear paths. I have a very nonlinear path, but I've been successful in that nonlinear path.
Yeah.
I think it's all about determination and adaptability and some of those other things. But that passion part of
Mm.
finding what your passions are and what fulfills you
Yeah.
is so huge.
Yeah.
It's really took me years to figure that out. And if you could do that in high school or college, I think you've got the game kind of snapped up there.
Yeah.
I think we're in a time right now where, diversity, equity, and inclusion are on the table right now and being talked about all the time.
Mhm.
And I think one of my biggest, myths for people and organizations right now is that the diversity isn't out there for every single role.
Mm.
There is diversity out there. You just don't know where to find it,
Mm.
right? And you don't know how to do that work. Some of the work that we do at ZRG is the work in diversity hiring. And part of that work is removing the bias around recruiting and talent,
Mhm.
because ultimately your natural inclination is to hire someone who looks, feels, talks, walks like you, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. You can tell me whatever you want. You are going to gel the most with somebody who you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
That is not the job of a great recruiter. A great
Wow.
recruiter is supposed to put the most qualified person in the seat. That is huge, right? So you need to develop, the pipeline can be there. you need to figure out a way to increase your pipeline. And most companies don't do that. They're like, there's no diverse talent. We're just not going to put people in those seats. It's not the way it works.
Mm.
There is definitely a method to the madness, but you have to know what you're doing. So it's a huge problem still in talent today. And with the current climate, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, but we're going to power through.
I really want you to talk on that, because here's the thing. There's individuals that's backing out of this because they don't see any benefit. I want you to talk to them and tell them why this is important and why you need to be doing this no matter what.
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to just say, before I say all the things that make a business case for it,
Right.
that this is just the right thing to do. Cultures in organizations thrive on diversity of thought, diversity of people, diversity of work styles. If everybody is the same, you get the same result, which means no growth. So I will say this, it's just the right thing to do from a moral standpoint, but it's also a really good business case.
Yeah.
It is proven in data for the last, I'm going to say, since 2020, McKinsey, KPMG, these big names that you know have been proving this over and over and over again, that diverse teams lead to more productivity, more innovation, and higher profits. I shouldn't have to say anything else to a CEO than that. But what's happening right now is we're falling for the myth that we're putting unqualified people in the seat. DEI does not mean putting unqualified people in the seat. It definitely means giving us an equitable chance to even get to the seat, right?
Yeah.
It's very different. People don't understand what I just was did a LinkedIn Live last night with, I do it every quarter with these three lovely ladies for an organization called HR for You, just lovely people. And, we talked about the fact that if most people had to define what DEI actually is, they probably wouldn't even be able to tell me what it is, because what they think it is and what it really is totally different. So as they remove every DEI thing from everything right now, that's a veteran. That's a white woman wanting equitable pay. That is ageism. That is, it is everything. If you don't think you're affected by DEI, disabled, I mean, we could go on and on and on. Try to equate it to Black people. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
So you can't define it for me. Don't take it away. So the business case is there, but it's just morally the right thing to do.
Yeah. And it really makes sense. If you go back to sports, I mean, every team, championship teams is only as good as they are because everyone is different. They have a different skill. They have different strengths and things like that. And that's what makes a championship team. One individual can't do it. Or if you have a bunch of people that's the same, you still can't do it. It's impossible.
Right. If I had a whole team of 3-point shooters on my basketball team, what's the point?
Yeah. Who's going to rebound?
Right? Who's rebounding?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That if you think about these things logically, it makes the most sense, but people want to remove the logic from it to erase history and take power away from people who generally have not had power in the first place.
Yeah.
They want to keep the power and hold on to the power. And it's an unfortunate state that we're in right now. And honestly, the media this is a deliberate action by what's happening right now. It's very deliberate to confuse you and to get you all riled up and to make you crazy. But if you actually look at the number of Fortune 500 companies that are backing away from DEI, it's very slim. Most the ones we hear about all the time make us crazy, like Target and some of these other big names, Walmart, right? We get a little crazy because we're like, Target, my gosh, but there's other companies who are staying true to this mission because they know the data proves that they're better with it.
So dealing with, let's say, the inclusive environment, can you share a face palming moment of you experienced with leadership, and how did you turn it into a teachable moment?
I'm going to go back a little bit and say that I work with leaders all the time
Hmm.
who want to be better at leading teams.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are white males who have no ability to lead a diverse team. They don't know what that looks like.
Mm.
And when they come to me, they will say, well, I just want to hire the best person for the job. I don't want to think about race or gender or any of those other things. And then when I look around at their teams, it's all white men,
Mm.
right? And I say to them, well, so you want to hire the best person. You're telling me out of all the people that you interviewed, this is where you got to. This was the best hire for you at that time. Because if this what best looks like, are you sure you're not just hiring for comfort,
Mm.
not for confidence? You're hiring for comfort.
Yeah.
You're hiring so you don't have to deal with the uncomfortable moments of
Yeah.
Desiree, a woman who has to pick up her kids, or you don't want to have to deal with all of that. You just want to deal with the same thing that you deal with. So
Yeah.
you sit in your
Wow.
comfortability and you stay there.
Mm.
And then you have a team that looks like it looks.
Mm.
And you get less innovation, you get less productivity. You're all doing the same thing. You're all hanging out at the bar after work, you're all doing the same thing, which leads to the same results. You want to
Yes.
know why your profits are low? Let's talk about what your team makeup looks like,
Yeah. Mm.
right? It's
Mm.
it's it's a struggle. Meritocracy doesn't exist in broken systems.
Mm.
The same people keep winning. It's time to ask who's setting the rules.
Mm.
So that conversation with this one gentleman, actually, we did a complete audit of his talent process because I had to say to him, obviously, something's happening to you along the way. Well, you just hired you,
Yeah.
right? And it worked out. And he was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. And sometimes it's not out of hate or they think they're doing the right thing. They want to do the right thing,
Yeah.
but they just don't even know that they're doing the wrong thing until you talk to them about it. And then the ones that really want to change really do change,
Yeah.
right? And they try to make the effort to do better. And now his team is great. So
That's amazing.
he's
That's amazing.
amazing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: what I realized, even as a black male, I realized this probably maybe 10 years ago, and I've been doing the podcast since 2020. So I've
Oh, wow.
this is going to be episode 204. 204.
Wow.
So I've had a lot of interviews. It's been a blessing, right? But
Yeah.
everybody don't have this moment or this opportunity to talk to great minds like yourself and get all of this great insight. I mean, most people have to read books and things. I mean, I do all that too. I glean so much from amazing people like yourself. And what I've learned is through the process that even myself, I deal with biasness and I didn't even
Of
know
course.
it. But now I'm trained. My mind is trained. Like, for example, if I go to a gathering or go to an event, I tend to gravitate towards people just like me, look like me, act like me, tend to gravitate towards those people. I intentionally, because of my trained mind, I intentionally and go towards something that I'm uncomfortable with. And I'm telling you, 2025, I'm still on this path. My mind still want to go left and I go right. I mean, it's really crazy. I want you to help us with this biasness and this biasness approach because most of us don't think we're biased. So, come on, so Desiree, help us with this. Help us.
Yeah. Listen, first of all, bias comes in everything that you do. So you can't tell me you don't have bias.
Yeah.
I mean, I like milk chocolate better than I like dark chocolate. It's a bias towards a chocolate, right?
Yes, yes.
And so you have bias,
Yeah.
right? And it's just human nature to have it.
Yeah.
It's not anything negative to have a bias. The thing about having it is acknowledging you have it. If you
Mm.
can't take the time to acknowledge you have that bias first, that's a first step. Because a lot of people won't even acknowledge that they have it,
Yeah.
right? The first step is acknowledging that bias and then working through what that means, why you have it,
Mm,
Identifying that, why you have it. Lots of time it is comfort, right?
mm,
It makes you feel comfortable, right?
mm.
So sometimes you have to be okay, comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you can shake that, if you want to be a little uncomfortable, you're working towards getting rid of that bias,
Mm,
right? And it takes a lot of strength to do that. It
mm,
takes a lot of strength to say to yourself, I have this, I know I have this.
mm.
I need to work at being better. And you have to go into spaces like you said and know that you have them. When I go into interviews with people, I always say, to myself before I get on the phone, clear your mind,
Mm.
right?
Wow.
Because unless I clear my mind, my inherent bias is, I have a thing about Southern accents, believe it or not, right? Like I immediately am like, oh God, So, so nobody hate me because I said that, but
Yeah.
but it is a bias I have, and
Yeah.
especially if it's real harsh. And so I have to say, clear your mind and say, I want you to listen to this person and actually, listen to their skills and qualifications, their accomplishments, because they're probably the best person to sit in the seat.
Yeah.
You just have this thing that's going on in your head that has nothing to do with that person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Clear your mind a little bit. If we can work on that individually, we come to the table as a group much better. We come to the table with that in our arsenal, that we're willing to make the slate clean, in other words, right?
Yeah.
And start from a place of understanding and empathy. And then we can work towards being better collectively.
That's all right. Knowledge bomb. You said something, and I really want to, and I love this. You said clear your mind. You said
Yeah.
clear your mind. So clear your mind is something you do. Give us some other tips on what you do to clear yourself and free yourself from
Yeah.
this biasness.
Yeah, I think too, I also want to kind of reverse what I said a little bit too. Not reverse it, but I do want you to clear your mind, but I also want you to educate yourself at the same time, right?
Got
So
you.
let's say I have a bias towards this Southern accent, right? I know that. I've done research for myself to figure out how the accent even developed, right? And if you now that I know that, I go into these conversations a little differently, right? Understanding where things are rooted in, or the history of something, or why things have happened that way, or why that person comes from that, it helps us get to a really good place where we then use empathy and, understanding to get to a common place. And I truly believe, and I always talk about this in rooms when I'm speaking, empathy and authenticity in this space, in talent, in recruiting, even in the world, is where it should be used as a strategy every time we go into something, right?
Absolutely. Mm,
If we go into that, we're going to bring our whole selves and we're going to have empathy for that person who's bringing their whole selves. We get to a better place.
mm.
And it's a struggle. It's not easy, right? It's not like I go into these rooms now and I'm like, hey, everybody, I have no bias. No, it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I still have to consciously say to myself, you have a bias towards this thing. You know you do.
Yeah.
So you need to work on being more empathetic, understanding, and clear your mind of what's ever holding you to that bias. And I
Mm.
think identification of that bias, like what's holding you to that, is a huge one too. Like why do you have that?
Wow.
Like what created that bias in the
Yeah, yeah,
first
yeah.
place,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And sometimes that's hard to identify.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I want to, because before we move on to the next thing, I really want to, because I was looking at biasness, listening to you, and I thought about something. I've read a book or even reading on relationships, right? What tend to happen, you have two individuals. I think a lot of people make this mistake when they're dating, right? You have two people that date, and after they go from the date, the girl go tell her friends, "Oh, girl, we had chemistry," and all this kind of. The guy said we have chemistry, and what I realized it's the same thing, that biasness. You feel comfortable, and sometimes it's just this term I heard about 2 years ago called trauma bonding, where you're
Yeah.
bonding. So you have two people getting together, thinking they have chemistry, but they just both hurt and they're connecting in this hurt way, not realizing, man, they're getting about to get into a damage situation.
Right.
But they don't even know it. They thought it was connection or whatever. And this biasness falls in the same category or whatever. I mean, do you have anything to add to that or go ahead? 'Cause I would love to
No,
hear your
no, that
thoughts.
was great. That's great. I think, well, this is what happens when we, especially in talent, when we're rejecting someone with a bias, right?
Mm,
Because we're looking for that quote unquote chemistry,
yeah,
which shouldn't really exist in talent,
yeah,
right? It should be based on your accomplishments, your skills, and your qualifications you bring to the table.
yeah,
But that's just not reality. It's just not human.
yeah,
So we end up saying culture fit like it means that, ooh, I clicked with that person. We were laughing and joking about golfing last
yeah,
weekend.
yeah,
And so I come behind them. I don't golf. So now, oh, I just didn't click with that person.
yeah.
But I may be more accomplished and
Wow,
qualified than the person that came before me.
wow, wow.
Right? It's a very, very, very tricky thing to navigate, especially with
Yeah,
people in leadership. Because people in leadership believe they got there by being kind of the know-it-alls of everything, right?
yeah,
Of their job. They know how they got here and they know the team they want to create. They know how what works and what doesn't work because they got there.
yeah.
But if you really look at it, most middle managers never got trained to be a leader.
Mm,
They don't know how to lead people and they sure don't know how to pick people
yeah.
most of
Mm,
the time. They go to their comfort zone.
yeah. And that's why they need Desiree.
That's
That's why
why
they need
they
Desiree
need
in that team.
Desiree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is why they need Desiree, because they're looking for the love.
Yeah. Bomb. I just had it's just a mind blowing moment because I'm thinking about this. You mentioned golf, right? So
Yeah.
let's say me and five of my colleagues, we all play golf. But if we start talking about golf, then we may choose them and say they're the best person. In the
Yeah.
back of our mind, the biasness is we all play golf together or we
Ah,
can play golf, but that has nothing to do
it
with
has
the
nothing
talent
to
with
do
the
with the
job.
job
And this
because
is
it's
just great.
comfortable, because it's cool,
Yes.
because we vibe, the
Yeah.
chemistry, you know? We were talking about putting and like all that
Yeah.
stuff. And you're
Yeah.
like, what does that have to do with building a database?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That or even two
Happens every day.
Christians, two AA formal people. Oh, I was in
Yeah.
AA. Oh, I was in AA too. And just like, no, no,
Happens,
no.
it
Slow
happens
down.
every day, all the time, because
Yeah.
humans naturally gravitate towards what feels comfortable. And
Yeah.
in some respects, we should, right? You
Yeah.
don't want to put yourself in dangerous situations and
Yeah.
all of that. But when it comes to talent and hiring and, how we view the world, we have to recognize that there are biases that we bring to a table every single day, whether that's through our community work, through anything that we do, we bring it to the table and we need
Yeah.
to figure out a way to acknowledge it, identify it, and then work through some of those. You're never going to work through them all, by the way, and it's going to be a constant struggle.
That's all right. What I love here is what we did on this episode today is we debunk what biasness it really is because biasness, all of us, it's in us. Like you said, vanilla, chocolate. I mean, that's why they have
Yeah.
different things on the McDonald's menu because everybody have. Some people want pickles, some people want no pickles, some people want
Right.
no tomatoes, no onions. Most of you onion haters, I don't want onions. Thank you. Thank you. This is so
Comes into
important.
everything we do.
Thank you. Thank
It
you.
comes
Thank
into
you.
everything we do.
Wow, wow, wow. I have to take a deep breath, calm down, because I'm really, really getting excited. All right. That's all right. What are some practical leadership growth tools, tips, advice that you can share with the Lead to Greatness community to help us reach our greatest potential?
Yeah, I want you to be self-fulfilled before you try to fulfill others.
Ooh.
Self-love is
Mm,
something I think we don't talk about enough.
mm,
Even though we do talk about it, we need to talk about it some more.
yeah.
You can't pour into others unless you pour into yourself, right?
Mm,
And you're never going to be a good leader of people until you've done that, done the work,
mm,
right? And not everybody does it.
yeah.
The second thing is that I encourage everyone to read about empathy if they don't understand it, to have empathy for their teams, for their colleagues, for their spouse, for their kids. That leads to greatness, because feeling that for other people and responding to it it's everything. It is truly everything. And as you think about building organizations or yourself or anything else, I just ask that you take a view of the world around you and also recognize the things that you bring to it, the things that you could do better, and sometimes stop focusing on other people. I think sometimes we get caught in this constant cycle of the negative of other people when there are negative things within ourselves that we could be working on. There are things that we could influence, use our voice for in our purview. And we don't do that enough. I challenge people to use their voice, especially in this climate that we're in right now. If you find things that you feel are wrong, stand up, because we need it right now. I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. Please, please, please stand up. Use the tools that you have and the skills that you have to get us to a better place.
Knowledge bomb. Desiree, this is amazing. I'm telling you, you then unlock some other doors that I'm going to really dig into. It's really going to help me as an individual, help me as a communicator, and really sharing with the world. So thank you personally. Thank you for giving me insight, giving the Lead to Greatness insight from your head to ours, from your mouth to our ears. Thank you so much, man. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. If someone wants to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
Yeah, so I am very reachable on LinkedIn, of course. You can just reach me, and I connect with almost every single person. So Desiree Goldey on LinkedIn. My Instagram is @recruitergold. My website is dobetterconsulting.net. And I am launching a podcast this summer.
Yes.
It is called Talentless. And I'm launching it with a great friend of mine, Ashley King, and we'll be going, hopefully, starting season 1, June 1st. Cedric.
June 1st. Okay, awesome. So let's talk about, what is that going to be about?
Yeah, so it's about everything in the workplace, which, obviously I love to talk about, but it's going to be about DEI, it's going to be about leadership, it's going to be about human resources, talent, all the things that we're really, really good at. It's talentless recruiters, for recruiters, by recruiters. We've been in the space long enough and have seen a lot of things go down, and we believe that the workplace needs a really keeping it raw, keeping it real type of podcast. And so that's what we're bringing to the table.
Thank you. Definitely looking forward. Thank you. And looking forward to you continue that journey. Yes. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.